Meeting to order on September 4th at 7 p.m. with a roll call vote. Phil Preston?
Here.
Jeanette Stewart? Here. Danny Golden is absent with notice. Would you please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance? I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay. So what do we got?
Okay, Phil, we have the minutes of August 20th.
I will make a motion to approve the minutes of August 20th.
I'll second the motion. All those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Motion carries. The minutes of August 29th, that was the one
That's when we read the bids out.
when we opened the bids. That was when we did the manifest.
Yep.
I'll make a motion to accept the minutes of August 29th as written. Is there a second?
Second.
All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Motion carries. The manifest for September 4th. Paul, do you have any POs or anything for us to sign? Debbie? Deb? Does Claire Moorhead still work for Caddy? Yeah. She does a good job. Great girl. Yeah.
So, I'm just about ready for you, boss.
It's okay.
Just about ready for you. What do we got next, Chair?
Paul, would you like to introduce the speaker?
Good evening. We have three speakers this evening. First up is Deb Naro, who's the Executive Director of CADI here in Plymouth. Would you like to...
Thank you, Paul.
Thank you.
Appreciate that.
Deb, do you need the microphone?
Where would you like me to stand?
Wherever
Why don't
you
you stand
like.
over here?
Yeah, maybe over here would be good.
Yeah, everybody then...
I can always rely on you for a wisecrack.
Do you need a microphone?
I don't.
Ah.
I do not need a microphone, that's for sure. Madam Ch- oh, excuse me. Yes. Well, some people pronounce Caddy, some say Katie, but the important thing is that you know our name.
Right.
And Katie stands for Communities for Alcohol and Drug Free Youth, and we are the Regional Prevention Coalition. And I'd like to thank Madam Chair for having us here, along with Selectman Preston. It's my pleasure to be here to speak with the citizens, not only the Board of Selectmen, but also the citizens of Ashland, and thank you personally for your allocation this year. It shows the insight and the foresight of this community to prevent problems with substance abuse before they begin. That is the most cost-effective way solution to deal with substance abuse. So thank you very much. We now presently have 12 towns in our region, the Pemmy-Baker and the Newfound regions contributing to prevention, and it does make a difference. It's helping us to preserve some programs that are in jeopardy of elimination. So I know I only have a few minutes, and there's so much I can say, but I won't. Eli, you'll be happy to hear that. But Katie's mission is to prevent and reduce substance abuse. We all know where there's smoke, there's fire. Where there's drugs, there's crime. We know that. It's the common denominator in criminal activity, whether it be in the juvenile justice population or in the adult criminal justice system. Drugs are there. So prevention is not only of substance abuse, it's not only a personal safety issue, it's also a public safety issue, and that's why I'm here. That's why it's a concern of our municipalities to protect our public from the harms that come from the crime associated with substance abuse. So what I've come is I brought this evening with is just a short packet of information, not only of the Katie services, but specifically to the restorative justice program, which is the sole court diversion program in the Plymouth District Court region. And we have to date served 99 youth, and they made the restitution to the victims and to the community and turned their lives around without being connected to the very costly juvenile justice system. And in a nutshell, what is restorative justice? It's community-based diversion that requires accountability to the victims and the community. It's education-based and accountability model. And we serve approximately 75 individuals a year. Those are 25 first-time youth offenders, 25 victims, and 25 families. So it's a very effective, cost-effective, and efficiently run program. We have a small budget. We have a budget of $50,000 a year, which is half the cost of other comparable diversion programs in the state. We have a 75% time coordinator who has an education background. He was a principal for 16 years. And one thing that at Katie that we can say that I'm particularly proud of is that none of our staff, which is very small, I'm the only full-time staff member, none of us take any benefits whatsoever. All the monies that we would receive for benefits are redirected to our very hard-hit youth programs. So restorative justice costs about $1,500 per case to process, as compared to a very conservative estimate of $3,000 in the juvenile justice system. And when you look at the cost benefit, if all we need is one out-of-district placement of the youth that many of our kids are on the track for, and that just blows a town's budget, because it's about $54,000 a year out of our taxpayer wallets for one youth referral, because local citizens are responsible for full educational costs at $150 a day for any type of placements. So that, I wanted to tell you, I want to just give you that information and let you know that that program, it's highly effective, it's fully evaluated by an independent evaluator, yet it is in jeopardy of elimination. Your contribution, along with several of our other towns, helped to kind of like stay the execution of the program. Even though it is effective, all state programming monies for direct service was eliminated when the incentive funds was wiped out in 2011. So what we need in order to preserve these type of programs, because we know it saves, we have the evidence of that, is a shared funding model between the state, the county, and local municipalities. And right now we are missing the state, and that's hopefully at some point Senator Forrester has been working real hard to try to identify some funding so that that can be coupled with the local, because all of our locals are working really hard to hang on to these programs, because we know that if we don't, the kids will be rooted to typical retribution through the court system. But what are they learning? We don't want to see them return. 45% of the kids that go through the court system reoffend. We have only 6% of the kids that go through restorative justice reoffend. It's an amazing accomplishment. So we're trying everything we can to hang on to it, and I want to say thank you to all of you for all that you're doing as well. So I just wanted to open it up to questions.
Deb, are all the programs there at the building where the office is?
No, actually, most of our programming will take place right in the communities. For example, we have our coordinators go right into the schools. If the Bristol Newfound High School is very, very good, and the elementary school as well, if we have kids that are in the schools, if they're in study hall or something like that, we'll send our people right into the schools if it works in a confidential way so that they can't identify. Or when financing allows, that they'll come to the office. We'll do it both ways. So we go to, and they also come to us.
You mentioned the cost of placement in some of the facility. Are there others besides YDC in Manchester?
Oh, yes,
Lots of them.
there are across the state. The Wreath School would be one locally. I mean, the Mount Prospect Academy.
Okay.
It's gone through several iterations of names, but MPA.
Yeah.
They're across the state, so it's where the best fit, for the youth. But YDC is quite costly as well.
So you said 15,000?
It's actually,
it's more than that.
for each youth referral on this, it would be $150 a day for education costs. The costs of a placement are much higher.
Yeah.
But the local taxpayers are only responsible directly. Of course, it's all going to come out of our pockets eventually anyway. I mean, we all have one wallet. But we're responsible for the education costs just as we are for, our schools. It's just that it's we're paying to sustain education system locally, and then this is an add-on. That's why we want to keep our kids for their own, not only their own best benefit in their local community to educate, but also for a tax benefit as well. It's just a smart decision.
Thank you.
Anybody in the audience have any questions?
Yes.
How many people from Ashland do you serve?
We've had 7 youth to date. A lot, and then that includes, of course, you can multiply that by 3 because we have the victims, sometimes multiple victims, and restitution has been paid to the town several times for damages. One example would be just last year in the town of Plymouth, we had we reimbursed, not we, the youth reimbursed. We work with them to get jobs so that they themselves are paying this back and not their parents. $2,400 to the town of Plymouth for the fire department. And there's been, in past years, similar in the towns. I don't have the records right here for the town of Ashland, but when there's, when the town is the victim, the town is reimbursed for the costs.
Any other questions? Well, thank you, Deb.
Thanks,
Thank you,
Deb.
Jeanette. Thanks so much, Bill.
Thank you
Good to
very
see
much indeed.
It's my pleasure. If you ever had any questions in the future, just please give me a call. The contact information
We
is here.
definitely appreciate
Okay.
everything you do.
Okay, thank you so much. Appreciate it.
Next up, we have someone that's a familiar face to Ashland residents, Paul Simard, from the House of Representatives.
Members of the board, former representative. I'm going to be brief. Paul has generously given me 45 minutes to speak to you, so I'm going to come in underneath. Last time, one of the last times I was up here was when I was running for election. I made a promise that I was going to go down to Concord and do my best to rein in an out-of-control budget. I went down to Concord. You told me to go there. I served on finance. I served on health and human services. We were given a target that was set by Ways and Means according to the revenues that were anticipated. Health and Human Services was charged with cutting $207 million from Health and Human Services. I went down to Concord 7 days a week. I can remember being in hearings up until midnight on Sunday night. This went on for months. We heard agencies, we heard commissions, we heard testimony from 9 or 10 in the morning up until 10 or 12 at night. We did cut $207 million from Health and Human Services. It was one tough job. There are a lot of needy people out there. 161 million of that $207 million came from ARA funds. These were from the recovery funds and so forth that were funneled into Health and Human Services. What happened was there are a lot of bureaucracies, a lot of agencies, a lot of commissions that were set up to dispense this money, and we were expected to continue spending this money. One unfortunate thing Ms. Naro covered was that Katie took some cuts. I have to say one thing. We cut $207 million. Then it went over into the Senate side. Senator Forrester pressed the Highway Department, and all of a sudden, $50 million became available. Senator Forrester took that $50 million and put it back into disabled, the DD accounts, and a lot of these accounts that we were reluctant to cut, but we knew we had a job to do. This enabled a lot of agencies to continue their good work. We still cut that $161 million from Health and Human Services. What we did do was we established managed care. The promise with managed care is managed care handles Medicaid recipients and people who can't afford medical care. Up until this point, it's been at demand or on demand. So if I couldn't afford medical service, I got sick, I went to the emergency room, and I waited because who wants to go to the emergency room for just a cold? A lot of these people were showing up in our hospitals, in our emergency rooms, with life-threatening diseases and conditions that should never have been allowed to go that long. What managed care has done is it's appointed these individuals to a primary physician. That primary physician will now see these people on Medicaid every 6 months. Now these people are going to be getting medical care. We did that in this last session of the legislature. This is a good thing. It's a win-win situation. And I know the leadership touted this as being a savings of $14 million in Medicaid. It's not going to be a savings. when this program starts, it's going to cost us a little bit of money. But 2 years down the road, 3 years down the road, we will achieve those savings, and people are going to be achieving good health. And that's what we're here for. We're here to do a job. And, you know, I went down and I promised you a balanced budget, and we achieved that. And we still maintain the services to our most needy. And that's what counts. And these were hard decisions. And don't ever think you go down there and you just sit at a table, oh, we're going to cut this, we're going to cut that. We had people coming in on crutches and wheelchairs, on respirators, and how can you say no to those people? But we did do that. We balanced the budget. Another thing that I'm active in right now is Northern Pass. I've been assigned to the commission to study the feasibility of burying electric cable from Hydro-Quebec to New Hampshire. We've had 3 different hearings so far, right down in the State House. We've got another hearing this Thursday at 10 o'clock. If anybody would like to come down, it's an open hearing. It's right in the State House, 10 o'clock, room 100. Public Service wants to run overhead lines from Hydro-Quebec down to Franklin. By doing so, they will receive between $28 and $120 million a year in transmission fees. I'm not opposed to Northern Pass, but I am opposed to 140-foot tall towers running right through the heart of the White Mountains without any benefit to the citizens of this state. I'm not going to stand for that. And there are several on the committee that feel the same as I do. One is Senator Forrester, Representative Rappaport from Berlin area. We've got the state's best interest in mind. If we can take and bury those lines, and Hydro-Quebec recommends burying the lines, they already have a line from Hydro-Quebec to New York City. It's all underground. There's no reason they can't do that in this state in our rights-of-way. We own rights-of-way for railroad tracks. We own rights-of-way for Route 93. We could bury that in the median of Route 93. Now, what would happen? Well, the state would get those transmission fees. Public Service does not want to let go of those fees. That's a big chunk of money for them doing basically nothing. We can afford to bury a lot of cable for 28 to 120 million, 68 to 120 million dollars a year. We can bury a lot of cable, even if we cover it on grade. We can do this. Okay. Another cause that I've taken up. We have a woman in Bristol, Joan Worth, who's got a group together, and they're opposing smart meters. I don't know if any of you are on the co-op, but the co-op has already installed 71,000 smart meters on the homes of our residents. Now, last year we passed a bill, it was Senate Bill 266, that required a consent, the homeowner's consent, to attach those smart meters to your home. These smart meters communicate to the co-op. They communicate 10 times every day, and they tell the co-op how much electricity you're using in your home. They can also tell when you're not home. This is all information that's going to be stored someplace off-site that has information about what you do in your personal lives. If you have a house that's in a residential area, you're using electricity to run a wood shop or whatever, are you zoned for that? Well, it looks like, we have to take you to court for a zoning violation, or we have the right to tax you more money because you're using your property for a purpose other than a residential property. Down in Connecticut, they've had people taken to court already over the same issue. There are a lot of things that I don't want people to know about me and about my personal habits. That's my business. That's nobody else's business. So I've been on the smart meters. I'm on the Northern Pass. I've worked hard to try and do what you people sent me down to Concord. And I'm running for re-election from District 17, which is a floterial district. It's something different. I don't think we had those. We had them, 10 years ago, Phil?
That was a while ago.
It was a while ago. Well, they brought them back. I'm in a floterial district. I used to have Holderness was part of the district, Ashland, Bridgewater, Bristol, Alexandria, and Groton. Now Grafton is included, and also in the Floterial, Enfield. So I've got a district that goes from Ashland to Enfield, and that's a heck of a ride. But I'm asking for your support. My name is Paul Simard, and please give me a vote at the next election. Thank you.
Thank you, Paul, very much. Appreciate
Thank you,
it.
Paul.
Next up, another familiar face. I've forgotten whether you were here 2 years ago, I think it was.
Yes, it was. Thank you very much.
This is Harold Skip Riley
Okay.
from Grafton County, District 9.
Madam Chair, members of the Select Board, and guests here tonight. The name is Harold Riley. More people call up and look for Harold, they don't know who I am. Skip is my nickname, and most people know me as Skip. And on my cards I'm running, and also on my advertisement says Skip Riley for re-election. But I've served 2 years on the election committee, and my real passion would have been the criminal justice committee, and would like to work on some of the CADI information there. My background basically is in law enforcement, over 40 years in law enforcement. I was a police chief here for 20 years in the town of Groton, and Hebron, and Alexandria. And formerly I was in New Jersey as a police officer. I retired from there when I came here, and I'm glad I did happen to move. Somebody said, how did you come to go to New Hampshire? I said, well, when I retired, I was going to move to Maine to open a hunting and fishing camp, and I ran out of gas here in Alexandria, so here I am. But it's been interesting serving in the last 2 years, and on the election law committee, there's a lot of discussion about this voter ID, and it's, I think, blown out of proportion a little bit. What is the objection to having to show who you are when you come up to vote? And if you don't have a photo ID, you can call your town clerk and they'll mail you a absentee ballot, or you can take and go and fill in an affidavit. That doesn't take place until next September anyhow, in the first place. So right now it's kind of a moot point, but it's something here to prevent the voter fraud as they're talking about. They say there's only been one case of it. It happened to be a student from Plymouth University here, where he came up and didn't have any ID to show that he was a resident, so he had an envelope in his pocket that had his Plymouth address on it, but it was from the Absentee Ballot Commission in Boston. So you figure that one out. He was using that. Is he voting in Boston as well as voting here? So they did go after that one. Ed Nail, who had quite an extensive investigation back in the early part of this century here, couldn't get much done with the Attorney General's office as far as voter fraud. He had stacks and stacks of evidence on it. As Representative Samad had said, sometimes they were in session until midnight. Well, we sat there on a couple of late night sessions also, and especially one on the student ID. We were there until 1 o'clock in the morning that past summer trying to iron this out. But on the voter ID bill here, I think it's going to probably be found to be constitutional and will go through. And next year, if I do get reelected, I'm running like Paul is, and they took Holderness and Groton out of the district and put me into Grafton. So Grafton, Bridgewater, Alexandria, Bristol, and Ashland will be the district here. Myself and there's 2 seats open, and on the Republican side, we do have a primary fight, and there is 4 applicants for it. I'm one of them. And Bob Hull from Grafton, and Barbara Emery, the town clerk from Alexandria, and Jeff Shackett, a businessman from Bristol, is running. So if you could see quite clearly, give me a vote, I would appreciate it. I'd like to go back for one more term, and if I could get on the Criminal Justice Committee, kind of my expertise, if you want to call it that, and make some inroads. And just getting through with the DARE program that they ran down here in the Bristol Elementary School, the Bristol Police put on here just this past year. They had, I think it was 55 students that take that course, and I thought it was a great program for the kids. And if you have any questions, I'd be glad to answer them.
Anybody have any questions?
Sure, I have a question.
Yes.
When was the last time you came to the town of Ashland to a board of selectmen or the town office since you were elected 2 years ago?
Last time I was here was 2 years ago, except I've been in touch with Bill on a couple of other things. I had called up, I'm sorry, Paul, when you had that little fiasco there with the flooding, to see if they can do any assistance through our office here, but you said you guys have got it pretty well under control.
Well,
Yeah, I just wanted to mention, Pat, we get hundreds of emails every week. And I have had a lot of emails, a lot of activity from Holderness and Ashland. And I try to answer every email that comes from this district. There were questions where we did get thousands of emails. When we had the gay marriage bill, that was a real active one. Sometimes when I have 1,000 emails backed up, I might not get back to everybody. But the people of Ashland, I found, have been very active in letting me know what they want done in Concord, and I've always tried to take care of their wishes.
Thank you, Paul.
Thank you, Skip.
Thank you, Skip.
Very much.
Thank you.
Okay, old business, decision on the road bids.
Do we need to use the microphones, do you think, or not? No?
If you can't hear, just raise your hand and we will use the microphone, okay?
Do you think we need to use the microphones? Can you hear?
We can hear you. Do you hear them?
Is it better with the microphone? It is. Okay. It is. At our signing of the manifest last Wednesday, we opened the sealed bids for the roads, and we said that we would announce the decision on Tuesday evening. In the interim, Tim Paquette, the Public Works Director, was just going to check on a reference in Holderness for one of the people that bid, and I think he's been satisfied. He's been satisfied with that. At our department head meeting on Friday, I asked him if he would feel, how he would feel if I asked the board to forego the overlay on Hicks Hill Road, because I was somewhat concerned about the town's financial position. In consultation with the town treasurer and the financial consultant, we are unable to move the $50,000 to any other line or really do anything with it. My hope was to move it towards the fire department roof money that we would then have plus another $50,000. So as it stands, Madam Chairman, we are unable to move the $50,000. So I think we should continue with the announcement of the bids.
The reason we can't move the $50,000 is you can't move money from one department to another. In your own department, as long as you don't go over the bottom line, you can do that. But you cannot take money from one department and give it to another department. It's just not legal. So that's something that you cannot do. When we opened the bids at the meeting of the manifest, the bids were GMI paving for Hicks Hill Road was $55,276.20, and for Levitt Hill was $2,400. R&D paving for Hicks Hill Road was $67,000 approximately, And for Bryant paving, Hicks Hill Road was $50,116, and for Levitt Hill was $2,400. I don't have Levitt Hill for R&D on this. Is there a Levitt Hill there?
Well, they didn't give a total value.
Yeah, we
It
had to
be
figure that out, but they
calculated.
were a lot higher than the others anyway, as far as the bids. The other thing is to, talking with the Public Works Director and everything, if you let roads go and you don't fix them, they're not going to get any better, they're going to get worse. And if you keep letting them go, it's going to cost more money year after year. So the roads need to be done, the money's in the budget, and so tonight we're going to vote on the bid. And what we have done is we have checked with the other companies. We have also had the Public Works Director check. And tonight we're going to vote on who we're going to use. I would like to make a motion to use GMI paving. Is there a second?
I'll second that.
Okay, motion has been made and seconded. All those in favor?
We're going to have discussion, aren't we?
No, you
I'd
don't have
like-
discussion.
I'd like to have Tim,
Why do you have discussion?
well, I'd like to hear what Tim, I'd like to hear from Tim. Tim, could you tell us what's your assessment of the two contesting bids are, the two primary
Point of
bids?
order, there is a motion on the floor.
And a second.
And it has been seconded.
Right, and now we're discussing it.
No, you discuss.
There's not discussion with other people.
There is no discussion to the
With the public.
Well, I want to hear what, I want to hear what the Director of the Public Works Department has to say about it.
Well, before we voted on it, I said that the Public Works Director had said
Well, I know
that-
you said that, but I'd like to hear, he's the one that made the decision, or made the observation. I'd like to hear what his comments are.
Well, right now, we have to make a decision, so we'll vote on this, and then if you want to hear his comments after, you can. The motion has been made and seconded.
Well, it has been made and motioned, and it is a topic for discussion. It is on the table
For discussion with the board.
Well, I'm not going to vote.
Well, then take your motion back. You can take your motion back for the second, I can take my
Okay.
motion back, and then we can redo it.
Okay,
You take your motion back?
yes.
I'll
I
take my
second that.
motion back. And now, Tim, would you like to discuss?
What would you like
the
to
vote?
know?
Well, you said, I understand you talked with GMI, with Bryant. I don't know if you talked with...
I just speak with R&D also.
Okay, and I just, you made an evaluation of what you would anticipate the end result of their contract. And I just would like to hear from you what you found out. You talked, I gather, with the town of Holderness and got some opinions there, and I just
Yeah,
wondered if
and
you could share them with
Just, they
us
did
and with
they
the...
did some work with Brian Paving. Without really getting into it, I spoke to the Holderness Road agent. My opinion was to the board was to go with GMI. They're an established company. We've used them many times before. That's nothing against Bryant Paving. One thing I've learned over the years from Mark Ober was the low bidder always isn't the best bidder. Again, nothing against Bryant Paving. And just to let people know that even though those bids are, it's an estimate. $50,000 from GMI is an estimate because they have to go high. Because what they have to do is they have to shim the road first before they overlay. Now they're estimating 100 ton of shim. They could only use 10 ton of shim, and that's going to cut the price way down. So
I wasn't questioning what your evaluation was. I just wanted to hear it from you. That's all.
my opinion.
Yeah, I mean, you've
as
given
far as
it.
the companies.
Well, you've given it,
Yeah, okay.
basically, and I appreciate hearing that.
Any other questions?
I don't think so. Okay, I'll make a motion to accept GMI, the bid of $55,276.20 for Hicks Hill Road and $2,400 for Levitt Hill Road. Is there a second?
Second?
Okay, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Motion carries. Is it okay if I sign this, Phil? There's only one
Well,
signature.
you've got, yes, yes. Is that on your credit card?
No, it's on yours. Okay, fire department roof. I think Steve's here tonight too.
Yes, he is, yes. Also at our meeting on last Wednesday, the signing of the manifest, the email arrived just in time for the meeting from our structural engineer, Linda Perry. We hadn't got time to look at it, so therefore we tabled any decision and discussion until tonight. In that memo, she's recommending that we move forward with A.W. Theron, whose base bid price was $189,000, and coupled with the deck removal would bring it up to just about $199,000. At our department head meeting on Friday, I brought this up to the department heads and specifically spoke with Chief Heath, and I was very worried about where we're going to get the money from. We have $50,000 as a warrant article for the replacement of the fire department roof. We do not have available funds other than that at this time. So I've asked Chief Heath just to tell us what his Band-Aid approach is going to be. Because I spoke to the structural engineer this afternoon and said that we feel, or could we go another year through the snow without having it done. However, asking the board if they would give me permission to negotiate with Theron through our structural engineer a contract in 2012, noting that no payment would be done until 2013. Also noting that in 2013 there might be a material increase in cost for materials only. So I would like you to please listen to Chief Heath, and then I'd like to continue the discussion and see if the board will allow me to contact the structural engineer.
Steve?
We would, as Paul said, we were talking about ways to deal with this. My question is, are we talking about a roof that's in imminent danger of falling? Does it jeopardize the people that are using the building? Does it jeopardize the equipment? And I said that the engineer has never really come out and stated one way or the other. Is it ready to fall? Or, in fact, could it go through another winter and then we'll take care of this next year? You know, that if it's not an emergency, then we need to plan and find the resources to deal with this in another way. If we don't have the money, we don't have it. We had proposed, I believe there was discussion, we proposed a couple of stopgap things, for example, going to the area where the ponding is occurring and drilling some sort of a drain there to relieve the pressure from built up water because it pools there to take the weight off the roof. And also reinforcing from underneath with a lolly column, perhaps from the apparatus floor up to the trusses to support that, give it a little bit of extra support. And I believe he was going to discuss that with the engineer and see what the options were.
And I did, Madam Chairman, and she said it's not advisable to bore any holes where the water is. As you know, the water level is lower than the drain, and there are I believe there's 2 or 3 ponding areas. She didn't think that was a good idea. What she thought was the best idea was every time there was a snowfall to make sure that the snow is removed immediately. Chief's absolutely right. We have no guarantees when it's going to fall. It might last another 2 years as it stands, but it has to be replaced, according to the contractors who've analysed this.
Yeah, I have to admit, I'm not sure why she's saying you can't put a drain there. I don't know. But yeah, I knew she's the engineer, so I guess we'll just have to go with her.
she said that would create a huge leak, and it would just run everywhere. As soon as you start to bore the hole, it would spread. By the time you couldn't even get a pipe into the top. So,
That's because it's water.
yeah, yeah.
How about that water there now?
Right.
Okay, I'm not sure, but if that's what she says, then I guess that's what we've got to go by. But I think that could be controlled. But nevertheless, if she's saying that is she in agreement that we're in the clear, we're okay as long as we keep the snow load off the roof?
As long as we keep the snow level through, yes.
So what is her suggestion in terms of utilizing what money we have? Is that possible, or do we put everything off until next year?
Well, there's an option here that the town office thought about. We have $50,000 under the warrant article. If the board allows me to negotiate with the structural engineer and the contractor of choice, perhaps we could give him a deposit of $50,000, noting that in 2013 we put in another warrant article for the remainder of the money and hope that the voters approve this.
Which would be $149,000.
That's correct.
So is that down payment to hold the contract price, the bid?
It would certainly secure it, even if we don't put that money down there, and we keep it for 2013. I would negotiate with the contractor, with your permission, to by signing a contract in 2012. Fingers crossed that we don't have a default budget. At least we will have it for 2013. Should we go default? Because we'll have a signed contract.
And you'd put it in as a warrant article,
And yes, put it as a-
rather than in the budget?
yes.
Well, you said a contract. If you
Well,
sign
a
the contract, then even if it was a default budget, it would still be in there.
It's still in there.
I think it would be better to put it in the budget, because if you put it as a warrant article, and you've already told Theron, is it, that we would pay him in 2013, and the warrant article doesn't get voted in, then we're in big trouble. So I think it would be better to put it in the budget and make sure it's a contract so that it's in the default budget too.
Would the board give me permission to continue discussions with the structural engineer? And
I think you're going to have to. I mean, I feel that you should. I'm not the only one. I mean, Phil has to decide too, but I definitely feel you should go forward with that. I'm worried when, she said as long as the roof is cleared off from the snow. I'm still concerned because it could fall. And it scares me because, with the people in there, the equipment in there, I mean, we've been talking, about it for a while, so I think you definitely have to go forward with that.
There has been some talk about putting the cart before the horse. We have yet, of course, if we want to treat this as an emergency, to sign the revenue source form by the board of directors and the majority of the budget committee. DRA may not think this is an emergency. Certainly we have enough supporting documentation to the fact that we think it is. But if they decide it's not an emergency, what do we do then?
I know, and the surplus is there. I think we've got, what, 440-something thousand, I think it is right now, accumulated.
Not at this point in time. We don't know. We will have when the tax money comes in, but not at this.
No, what I'm saying is, on paper, that's what we have. It is accumulated surplus from 4 or 5 years.
I got a question for
I don't know, it's a
Steve.
big decision. Go ahead, Phil.
Steve, how many times did you shovel the roof last year?
None. We did, I believe, the previous year or 2 years ago, we had gone up there, as when we had that heavy wet snow, and I think that we marched up and threw up on the roof down at the finish with it. And that's the last time we were up there doing that.
That must have had a cost.
Just time for the personnel to be up there doing it.
Is that I think that's a yes.
Yes.
Any notion of what that is or was?
How do you feel about Paul going forward with that, and then the town signing a contract. That way, then we're guaranteed it because it'll be in the budget.
Thumbs up.
Okay, Phil agrees too, Paul. If you need anything when you go forward with that or have any questions, don't forget to ask us. Are you all set?
Okay.
The fund balance policy, we went over that at the manifest. Do you have the,
We went over the documentation at the signing of the manifest, and I was going to ask you to sign the document there with the numbers. DRA's recommendation of 5 to 17% was offset by our auditor's recommendation of 10 to 15%.
Right.
And the numbers that I stated there and how our financial consultant arrived at them. Something happened today with GASB 54 that I would like to table this until September the 12th, because Anita and I are going to meet tomorrow and work on perhaps some new numbers.
okay,
There is some commentary in GASB 54 that we've overlooked.
okay.
So I would like to table that, please.
Okay, it's okay with me. Is it okay with you, Phil?
So that's a
Can
work,
we table it?
work session item? Sure.
That's a work session.
Yep.
Is that okay with you?
Yep, that's fine.
Consensus of the board, Paul? Okay, the contracts that Tony gave us, there was 3 different towns. We were supposed to look those over and see which one we liked. I mean, I like the Ashland one. I think it was fine.
Well, I did too, but then I read them over again, and I kind of like the Plymouth one, with an exception. And Tony, I need to ask a question about the Plymouth one. On the third paragraph has to do with what does the town recover if a trained or partially trained police officer leaves, is fired, whatever, dies, whatever it is.
the contract.
And the Plymouth contract has a figure of $12,000. The other contracts have, seems to me, it's a little complicated. It doesn't make particularly good reading, but they have a method of proportioning, of figuring out a proportion of the money the town has spent that can be recovered from the former employee. And liking the simplicity of the Plymouth contract, I'm wondering if it can be changed, if you can make a suggestion as to how what should be repaid, because right now it's $12,000. Well, $12,000 is sort of an arbitrary figure, and if somebody, I mean, it happens all the time, not all, it does happen that public officials get arrested when they wish they hadn't been. And a police officer might lose his job, but if he's just started training, $12,000 seems a little punitive. If, on the other hand, it's closer to the end of his training period, $12,000 doesn't seem enough. So, does that make any sense?
No, I would think, as he fulfills his years, the cost of that would go down. We'll just use 12,000 based on, we'll just use 12,000 because it's easy to do the math that way. One thing that you shouldn't do is look at the numbers that these other towns have in there, and I wish I'd whited them out. That's something that we'll determine what number we want to use for the person. Because if we employ somebody that already has some certification and only has to go to the academy to do a law package and some of the other incidental stuff, certainly we're not going to hold it to a $12,000 contract, because really the outlay to the police department isn't going to be as great as somebody that you have to run through the academy. So that's a number that we're going to figure out. So that's a number that we're going to figure out what's going to be reasonable for us to recoup if the person should leave. Let's use 12,000 for the figure. He goes through the academy, and in the first, he gets out of the academy, and a week later he decides he wants to leave. Well, the $12,000 is what he should be paying the town. Okay, say he goes through the academy and he stays 1 year. Well, what you're gonna do is you're gonna take that 12 and you're gonna divide it by 3, because we're looking at like holding it for a 3-year deal. So that's $4,000 a year. If he leaves in that second year, then he's only
But
gonna
if
have
he
to
leaves
pay
at
the
the-
town $8,000.
At the end of the first month,
Then he's gonna pay the whole thing.
is that fair?
Then he's gonna pay the whole thing.
Well, if you haven't,
You're asking him to commit. You're asking him to commit. You're asking him to commit to it. Either he's gonna sign it and commit to it, or he's not.
you mentioned that it depends, the number would vary with the individual.
Well, it would depend, you know, I mean, we're looking at this guy. It would depend, you know, I mean, we're looking at this guy, and that's part of my report tonight, is how we're moving along through our process, but, you know, we're looking at this guy possibly only having to go down there and take a law package. That's classes during the day.
So this
He
should
doesn't go
be,
through the So that would be less than $12,000. So that would be less than $12,000.
So that
his
should-
3-year contract with the town, because the outlay is gonna be less.
so shouldn't that be
Sent it through the
simply
whole-
blank or a fill-in?
Absolutely, that's why I said I wish I'd have widened
Yeah.
Absolutely, that's why I said I wish I'd have widened it out, because every town has gone through to analyze
Okay.
what they think it costs them. We're gonna come up with our own number. So, we're gonna come up with our own number.
But on an individual
On
basis?
what we think. Yeah, depending on how much training that we're gonna end up
Right.
sending. Depending on how much training that we're gonna end up sending the person. You know, you're gonna have a number, say, okay, if he had to do the full-time academy, and we're gonna do him to 3 years, say we use $12,000, but if he's gonna do, only have to do the law package, then our outlay for the town isn't as great, say it's $6,000 or $8,000, we can take that $8,000 and divide it by 3, and that's what his progression's gonna be if he should leave before his 3-year contract. It's very simple, let's not make it as complicated as
Well, that's
we can.
why I like the
It
Plymouth
needs to be
contract, because it is pretty.
And I think that one is the same one that Camden. And I think that one is the same one that Camden uses.
I like Plymouth and I like
It's very simple, straightforward.
the Plymouth one.
That's the one I like. So, but the value that we're going to stick in there is going to be based on the individual that we're hiring and how much the town has to outlay.
So if we were to approve this, it would be with that number deleted and just a blank.
It's just you're gonna choose. Yeah, it's just you're gonna choose a contract to
Yeah,
use, not
okay.
necessarily a dollar amount. I wish I'd have whited that out, but I just didn't think it was necessary.
Do you
What
like
do you
the
think?
Plymouth one better? I mean, I like either one.
I know Dan mentioned at the last meeting that he liked that one.
Okay.
And that caused me to rethink what I had said, and it
Then we'll
is,
go with the Plymouth
it
one.
is so simple. Okay,
That's the consensus of the board to go with the Plymouth one. Paul, do you have any new business?
I do, Madam Chairman, something came in late this evening. This is from a resident on North Ashland Road, Mr. Gene Bishop.
Has there ever been white lines on North Ashland Road?
We're going to ask our public works
Tim?
director. I don't think there is.
There's never been any lines on that road.
nothing down the middle?
Madam Chairman, do you want to read it out or do you want me to read it?
You can read it, Paul.
This is the Ashland Board of Selectmen from Mr. and Mrs. Jean and Nancy Bishop. The subject is making a road safer. We live at the village of Riverbend condominiums on North Ashland Road and have been full-time residents of Ashland since 1995. We are respectfully requesting that you consider painting double yellow lines down the centre and single white lines on either side of North Ashland Road. We are asking this because, being senior citizens, we are finding driving on North Ashland Road in the evening quite difficult when confronted with oncoming traffic. In addition, much of the traffic on this road is generated by guests at the Cold Springs Timeshare Resort. These drivers come to Ashland only once a year and stay for only a week or two. Thus, they are unfamiliar with the road. Since the road has no street lights, it is very dark, and with the oncoming traffic, there is no point of reference to look at as the bright headlights shine in your eyes. This is especially true and more dangerous when it is raining. By painting the lines, we are requesting drivers like us will find it much easier to navigate the road in the evening when there is oncoming traffic. This is even more true again when it is raining. It will be very much appreciated if you would give consideration to our request.
How many
Tim.
other roads would?
I just want to say, Tim, there are many roads that don't have white lines or yellow lines, right?
None of the town roads have
Yeah.
any lines.
Yeah.
But my guess is people travel faster on that road than other roads.
You could say that about how Thompson Street, First Street.
Washington Street.
That people drive faster?
Yeah, it's,
I don't even, what's
Definitely
the,
River Street.
what's the speed limit on North Ashland Road? 30?
30.
How many people drive at 30? Don't answer that.
Probably hardly anybody. But again, you could say that about Island Street,
Yeah.
Island Road.
The problem is, if we decided one road, then we're going to have to do all the others. So I think the answer would be no on doing the white lines and the yellow lines.
I think it's worth thinking about, but
That would add a huge.
Oh, yeah. Then we'd have to do the others.
Traffic control line for the year too. And I don't have, all we have is a push paint sprayer. And
you get some good exercise.
it's pretty comical to see me running, pushing a paint sprayer up the whole length of North Ashland Road to do the white lines and yellow lines. You would have to hire a truck to do that,
Well-
to do it properly.
I think we got to table.
I think we ought to
But it's
table
a-
it for what reason?
It's, well, for financial reasons, for one. I think,
But why are you tabling it?
well, we're not, I don't see us acting on this tonight,
Well,
but it doesn't mean we're,
okay.
Doesn't mean
I
we're
mean, I don't
throwing
think
it.
there's anything we can do. We got
Doesn't
plenty
mean
of
we're
roads
throwing
in
it.
Ashland that we need to put yellow lines and white lines if we did North Ashland Road, so I think,
it doesn't
I
mean,
think it's black and white, but we can table it if you want.
it doesn't mean we're throwing it away, but it's a,
Well, if we're going to table it, then I would like to make sure that we get it done and have an answer to it by the work session. So let's do it at the work session then. I don't like to keep tabling things.
okay.
Okay.
Wednesday?
Madam Chairman, may I ask, is it costs, Phil, that you would like us to find out? What it would
No,
cost
I
to do that?
accept what Tim says, that you're hiring a truck to do it. I accept that, his assessment.
I think
that
it's
we
the
don't have
fact
money.
that there's so many other roads in Ashland.
And that's, that's another reason.
Paul, Phil wanted to table that, so we'll make
Oh,
sure
well,
that that's
that's-
on the agenda for the next work session, which is next week. Any other new business?
I guess my feeling is that it's a valid request, and we ought not to just summarily dismiss it.
Paul, do you have any other new business? Patsy? Phil?
No, I'm happy.
I don't know if this is new business, but I do want to just mention that the town-wide yard sale is September 15th, and they always do very, very well at that. So if anybody wants to help out with it, or anybody wants to have a yard sale, it'd be nice if people could participate in it. Town administrators report.
My report will be brief, as the important topics have been covered under all business. On August the 30th, the Ashland Heald Steering Committee and ad hoc committees met with the folks from the Foundation for Healthy Communities for our first asset inventory session as respects physical activity. The next session will focus on the healthy eating aspect of our 2-year program. The Capital Improvement Program Committee held their second meeting on August the 29th and met with representatives from both utilities to outline the purpose of the program. Among the agenda items, topics included the format to be used to capture the required information for capital improvement requests and the critical need for capital reserves. The only capital reserve we have set aside at this point in time is $1,500 for the town clock. It is anticipated that both the CIP committee and the budget committee will work on finding ways to illuminate a financial path to continued solvency. The CIP committee would also like to expand to 7 members and will be putting forth names to the Board of Selectmen in due course. This morning, planning continued for the Economic Development Summit to be held not in Ashland but in Holderness on October the 25th. The Economic Development Planning Team visited the Ashland Historic Building and found that parking was an issue. We're expecting 75 attendees for this Economic Development Summit, and with Head Start and Tri-County Cap there is just no way we can possibly have parking. I suggested that people park in the public area outside the town hall, but I was voted down because if it was raining and cold weather, no one would want to walk 120 yards. The program will consist of keynote speaker President Sting from PSU and a panel of local government officials and businesses. Contractors who came to look at the scope of work to replace the front doors of the town office have backed away from this project, citing that it is too challenging, but we have Higginbotham Construction looking at the task. Our fire station roof appeared not only to be the only emergency in town, as we experienced problems at the town office with our 20-year-old Merlin phones. The voicemail was inoperable, so the public could not leave messages for the police department or the town clerk's office. Thanks to the patience and perseverance of Parks and Recreation Director Jim Glock, he rescued the situation by studying the Merlin manual and fixing the problem. In future, he will be referred to as Mr. Merlin. Some residents are in uproar over the paving in Ashland carried out by the state. While we are attempting to revitalise Main Street with civic beautification, the paving has set us back. The town administrator was directed to make contact with Executive Councillor Ray Burton, and this we are doing. In fact, he had left a message on Monday while we were closed, and Patsy Tucker is going to speak with him, I believe, tomorrow. The answer came back from the state that resurfacing parking spots along New Hampshire highways is the municipality's responsibility. The electric department has received a letter from New Hampshire DOT asking for an estimate to remove the 11 street lights at exit 24, which will be a considerable savings to the state. Some housekeeping items. The starting time for the Ashland Electric Commission's Tuesday meetings has been changed from 7 p.m. to 6:30 p.m. Please make a note of this in readiness for the next meeting scheduled for September the 11th. As the chairman of the board just said, the town-wide yard sale is a very important event here in town, and applications for the town-wide yard sale are still available at the town office, the town library, the community centre and Bob Sherfine Market. The deadline for acceptance of the applications is September the 8th. Thank you.
Thank you, Paul. Okay, department head reports. Sarah, library. Do you want a microphone, Sarah?
Am I loud enough? Or should I? All right. Statistics for August for the library, we've had 913 visits. We offered 6 programs attended by 85 people. We issued 11 new library cards. Our computers were used 190 times by the public. We circulated 1,384 items plus an additional 81 borrowed from other libraries and 53 downloadable audio and ebooks. We added to the collection 29 adult books, 14 children's books, 27 DVDs, most of which were donated by the Friends of the Library, and 6 audiobooks. A reminder that you can recycle used ink cartridges and cell phones at the library. Preschool story time will be held this Friday at 10:30 a.m. and a fall story time will take place on September 20th. The next library trustees meeting will be held on September 18th at 6 p.m. And Friends of the Library will hold a free book sale during the townwide yard sale on Saturday, September 15th from 9 to 3 p.m. Donations will be greatly accepted. Thank you.
Thank you, Sarah. Paul, are you going to read the treasurer's report?
Yes, I am, Madam Chair. As of close of play today, we have $1,205,373.31 in the bank. The payouts this week were $56,745.44. Whilst the town office probably thinks I'm being a bit of an alarmist, I think I should let the board know and certainly the public know some of our monthly expenses as we're coming into the 3-month critical period here in Ashland. Every month we pay out $265,000 in school payments, $195,000 to the Ashland School and $70,000 to Penny Baker. Our payroll is $65,000 a month. Our health insurance is $14,800 a month. And our retirement is $14,000 a month. That's just under $340,800, which we must find and must pay. So out of the $1,200,000 I just spoke about, $300,000 is not our money, it's owed to Northway Bank as part of the tax anticipation note that we took out, which has to be repaid by the end of December this year. We are also talking about the fire department roof. So the next 3 months are very, very critical for us at the town office. Tax bills will be going out, and we have to look very closely at our cash flow. I did ask the board if they would consider putting a freeze on departments for spending purposes, and that's probably where they think I'm being a bit of an alarmist. But as I say, these next 3 months are very critical for the town, and we do have to watch our spending. Thank you.
Thank you, Paul. Health and welfare?
There is no health and welfare report this evening.
Jim Glide, Park and Rec?
For the month of August, the Park and Rec Department was pretty quiet. The summer camp ended on Friday, August 3rd, and with the help of the community, the Ashland Campers Scholarship Program was able to sponsor a total of 50 weeks of summer camp for the children. Moving on to the town beach. The Ashland Town Beach closed for operations on Sunday, August 11th. The swim lines were brought in on Friday the 31st. The swim raft will be scheduled to be brought in once storage has been made available at River Edge Marina. The anticipated raft removal will be towards the end of October. This coincides with the end of the River Edge season. The Edward N. Doggett Campground. Campground still at full capacity and running very smoothly. During the last week of the month, the hot water heater had to be replaced at the campground, so it was attended to. The previous heater had seen better days. It was on its last burners after 9 years of service. We're hoping we get at least that from the new hot water heater. The Ashland After School Program. On August 27th, when school started, so did the After School Program. The After School Program runs every day that the school, at Ashland Elementary School, is in session. Nancy Nieves has returned as the After School Program Assistant, and currently we have 20 students registered for the program. That is a very good high for us.
Right.
The program meets 5 days a week, 2:30 to 5, and on Tuesdays we meet up here at the cafeteria. Other than that, it's held at the Ashland Booster Club. And as a note to the town office and to the Public Works Department, my thanks go to them and to everyone for helping attend to matters while I was on vacation during August. That is it for today.
Jim, I have a question for you. Is the handicap railing, is that taken out too?
That will hopefully be coming out, if not this week, next.
Is that going to be stored down at the LW Packard building?
No, that gets stored at the beach itself. It gets locked up to the snack shack.
Okay.
It's all locked up.
And all covered up?
It's protected from the weather, and everything else is under lock and key.
Okay.
Thank you.
Speaking of the Booster Club, Jim, they had the 25th year of the Food for All, and it went very, very well. So I just want to say they do a great job with the Food for All, and it went very well. So.
It has been the ideal facility for the community.
Yeah.
And with all the work that has been done recently over the past year or so, it's just made it even better. So we're going to keep those going and keep bringing everything up to speed.
Good. Thank you, Jim.
Thank you.
Tim Paquette, Public Works Director.
The August Public Works report. I worked on the paving bids, which were awarded tonight. Met with 3 contractors. Did some shoulder work on North Ashland Road, actually the whole length of North Ashland Road. With the help of Boldness Highway Department, they have a unit that attaches to their truck. It makes it a lot more efficient to do that, and it doesn't waste as much gravel. Continue to mow the ballpark, continue to do our town trash. After the heavy rain we had last month, we had to do some ditch work on North Ashland Road and Carr Avenue. Had to put some erosion stone in. We had some pretty big washouts we had to take care of on those 2 roads. Continue to do our roadside mowing, flushing culverts. I mean, you guys, it's cookie cutter for me every month, so sorry if I'm repeating myself. This is what it is. We did roadside mowing in Holderness. We do that every year. We swap work with them, so we go over and mow for them. They don't have a roadside mower. Stockpiling gravel, continue to grade the roads. Everybody's seen the bright yellow arrows on the roads now. We do that every year, marking out catch basins, so it's easier to find in the winter time when they do clog up with ice. As I said, we did some storm cleanup after the heavy rain. We were pretty lucky. We had some washouts, but we made up pretty well with it. I think we had 2 or 3 inches of rain within that hour. That one Friday. Brush work, continue to do that. Painted lines on Main Street on the new pavement. We still have the stencils to do the handicap and parking, the yield, the pedestrian signs. So when weather clears, we'll get that done. I took delivery of 4 loads of salt. We get it now. The state bid price is low right now before the winter kicks up. So I filled up the shed now. We assisted the PD with just setting up. I'm not setting up, but getting cones and everything in the pickup for the triathlon this past weekend. Transfer station, we shipped out bales of aluminum. That was 640 pounds. About $290 we brought in for that. The plastics that I mentioned last month that we shipped out, I finally got the check for that. That was $1,900 for the load of plastic we shipped out. The market is pretty low right now, so we haven't shipped out our huge metal pile down there yet. We have got coming in the next month. Just so you know, last year at this time we shipped that out twice. Just people aren't bringing it in anymore. They're bringing it straight to junkyards to get their own money out of it. So that's going to be way down this year. It was brought to my attention by a couple of my guys and then the police chief today. A set of stairs on 19 Main Street, the old Layton Steakhouse. I believe that the building inspector might have been aware of these. They were built, new stairs were constructed, and they're further out into the sidewalk now. So this is going to be a problem when we go to do plowing the sidewalks and picking up snow, because they're so far out past what they used to be. So I'd like, Paul, if you could talk to Bob Hicks, and maybe you could check on that.
And maybe you could check also with the new owner.
We've measured the width between the edge of the stairs and the curbing, and it's about 3 inches, 4 inches wider. I mean, narrower than our sidewalk plow itself. So if there's a car parked there, there's no way we're going to be able to get through without damaging the car. So.
Okay.
This isn't fire department related, so I don't have to come back up here in public comment. Ashland Firefighters Association Annual Golf Tournament, October 13th, Waukee Golf Club at 1 p.m. Anybody who plays golf, come on down, it's a good time. $65 a person, throw a team together. It's a good fundraiser for the association.
Thank you, Tim.
Are those stairs down to the pub or to the apartments?
They come between the 2 buildings, the apartments.
Okay.
They're newly constructed. Can't miss them.
Yep.
Police Chief Tony Randall.
August monthly report for the Ashland Police Department. The month of August has been active as usual for the police department. Total number of incidents, arrests, warrants, traffic citations, and warnings for August was at 167, which are 13 less than July. The department continues follow-up with ongoing investigations and cases. No training took place during the month of August for the police department. Chief Randall attended meetings with town department heads on the first and last Fridays during August. The police department was able to secure 3 more new portable radios through the New Hampshire Department of Safety from a Homeland Security grant with no cost to the town. The state notified us in May of this opportunity. The grant spelled out which radios were available, the
total cost for the radios were $8,754.56. The department has chosen a finalist for the full-time officer position and is currently setting up polygraph and psychological examinations. Speeding in town seems to be a new theme with the department, taking many reports. Winter Street and School Street seem to be areas with the most complaints. We have started a few directed patrols on these streets when time allows in an effort to bring speeders under control. Notices were sent home to school explaining that the speed limit on School Street is 15 miles an hour from 7 a.m. to 8:30 a.m. and again from 2 p.m. to 3:30 p.m. I would ask motorists to please watch your speeds as we will be strictly enforcing school zone speeders with tickets. I emphasize tickets, not warnings. I would like to thank the school for their help in sending the notices home with the students. I would like to remind the residents that most roadways within the town are posted at 25 miles per hour. So please, watch your speeds. This is kind of like a warning. Everybody gets it at the same time. National Drug Take Back will be held on Saturday, September 29th, 2012, from 10 a.m. to 2 p.m., and the Ashland Police Department will be a collection site. I would like to thank Jim Gleick for getting the phone system working again. Jim is the only person I know employed by the town that has the knowledge to get the phone systems working when there is a problem. And we had a problem last week. If a person called the police department or the town hall, the answering part of the system would not kick in, so incoming calls would not be shipped to voicemail. So thanks to Jim, the town saved money by not having to call phone repair services for the Merlin phone system that is truly outdated and complicated to deal with. And I'm going to add a little something to that. Hopefully that we're working towards replacing that system. It is very, very complicated. It's outdated. Something needs to be done about it. I think there's something in the works to have it replaced, but I'm not sure. And now my favorite one that I'd like to tell everybody about. Due to recent car break-ins, I would like to emphasize that people should lock their vehicles in order to limit thefts, as most car break-ins are crimes of opportunity. That means when you don't lock your vehicle, you give somebody the opportunity to just go in. We had like 13 of them a week or so ago. So my emphasis is please lock your vehicles. I know you shouldn't have to, but the fact of the matter is you do have to, because people just invite themselves in. And I also encourage the public to notify the police department of any suspicious activity as soon as you see it. Thank you.
Thank you,
And
Tony.
one more note. To the Ashland Board of Selectmen, from the Ashland Police Department. Warrant listed 36 unlicensed dogs in town. The police department found 12 that had moved. 2 dogs were deceased. 1 no longer had the dog, and 21 paid for licenses with bonds.
Good.
Okay?
Thank you. Alan, do you have anything for water and sewer?
I have nothing for water and sewer, but I'll gladly answer questions.
Okay. If they want to ask questions, they can ask it during the public comments. Is that okay? If you notice, the electric department isn't on the list anymore. I had tried to include everybody because I wanted to make sure if anybody wanted to, from a department, wanted to give a report or make any comments, they could. But at the electric commissioners meeting, my last meeting on that Tuesday night, they decided that they would not be giving any reports at the selectmen's meetings, that they would only be coming as a citizen. So that's the reason that they are not on the list anymore. The fire department, Steve Heath always has something on the first Monday of the month. I don't know if it's the programs or meetings or whatever, so he has asked to do it on the third Monday of the month. So he will be doing his report on the third Monday. Any select board items?
That's one challenge. just an email from the bond bank to Linda and Anita, and to kick it off, the refinancing, there were two options, and they decided to go with the second option there, you'll see. And they just wanted you to note that,
Okay.
if you would just initial the email for me. This will close the case now because we have signed the agreement with the bond bank, and the loan repayment will begin.
We can initial right here, both of us on the same place, and he'll have it.
You said that they had reached a decision?
Anita and...
Okay.
Yeah,
Yes,
and
it is-
Linda,
it
yes,
is
yes,
fine.
yeah.
Clarify
And
today.
this morning, and,
Any other select board items,
that's
Paul?
all I have.
Patsy? Phil?
Nope.
Public comments and concerns, Patsy?
I just would like to speak to those people who are here and to those people who watch this before next Tuesday, to talk about the voter ID law for a minute, because one thing that Mr. Riley said this evening was that if you didn't have an ID, you could call your town clerk and get an absentee ballot. Well, you can only get an absentee ballot if you're disabled or you're going to be out of town for that day. The voter ID law does not really take effect until September of 2013, which he spoke about. But for the elections, the primary and the general election, voters are going to be asked to show their ID. So the best option for you to do is to bring your wallet with you or your ID with you when you do come. If you don't have it with you, it doesn't mean you're not going to be able to vote. There are processes that there's paperwork that will be given out, forms you have to fill out, because the Secretary of State's office is going to keep track of those people who do not have an ID. So just my suggestion to those who are going to vote in the primary, the few of you that are going to go vote, that you do bring your ID with you. And in November, again, they're going to be asking for your ID, and it will be very busy in November. And so if everybody just has it in their hand when they come in through the door for the ballot clerks, it would make the process very, very much easier. And that's all.
Speaking of that, we're supposed to tell you what hours we can work.
Yeah, you can do it at the town office, that's fine.
Is that okay? Because Danny's going to have to work in the middle of the day, and I'll do the morning and the night. Okay. Any other public comments and concerns, Sandra?
Not necessarily in this order, but when it was mentioned about North Ashland Road and whether that was written by a senior.
The bishops?
Yeah, yes. I live on North Ashland Road, and I know on the back of my hand, so to have a center, straight up the road, I don't really care. But it was mentioned about renting a truck or, to do the lines. I just heard him say that he was working with the holiness, department, and, borrowing equipment from another town or using equipment from another town would be something I think that could be maybe thought of as, holiness or women.
That's what, yeah.
That would be possible. If you decide, to.
The thing is, if we decide to do that, we've got a lot of other roads that I'm sure people are going to say this
Right,
needs to be
right.
done. So.
If you decide, I was just thinking that, you could possibly work with another town.
I think that's what Tim tries to do with mowing of grass and things like that, too.
Yeah, we try to keep it as local as possible as far as far, but I can tell you right now, the whole doesn't have the truck that being on, nor this one, they just have to push it. But like I said, we try to keep it as local as possible, we're right next to each other, just makes it easier, traffic, but it's not really very
And it's good that you can help each other. Any other public comments or concerns? Sandra?
I have another question and comment that you had made earlier about borrowing money or taking money between departments. It's a bottom line budget, so therefore I don't believe that it would be illegal.
It is. You cannot go from one department to another. You cannot take money from one department to give to another.
Could you please tell me where that is?
I think Paul called legal, didn't you, Paul?
On this particular subject, I'll have to check my notes, but I'm not sure, Sarah, without checking.
Because you checked into it today or yesterday.
Not today.
Well, whenever you checked into it, you sent us an email.
Yeah.
I don't believe, though, it is against the law to, take money.
We had a meeting with the treasurer and the financial consultant, and she advised me that it's not the right thing. That's not the right thing to do.
It's not the right thing to do.
Right.
I completely
Right.
agree with you, Paul, but it's not against the law.
Because
Well-
if we did that, what we should, if we're not going to $50,000, then let's say our budget is $2 million. Our budget then comes down to $1,950,000 because we can't encumber it. It just goes back into the fund.
Sandra, I'll
balance.
check
That's
into,
not even mine.
No.
I'm not even.
what you're saying is the word illegal.
Yeah,
I'll check
I
into
know
that.
it's not-
I'll check into it tomorrow with LGC. I might have used, I could have used the wrong word,
No,
but
no, that's fine. I just was under the belief that it is not illegal to do. I mean, if you overspend a line or you have to borrow from another line, then you certainly
You can do
want to know
that.
where that money is going.
right, and you can do that within that department.
You can, but I think you can do it.
I know he sent us an email. I'm not sure where Paul checked, but I will also check with that.
Because I know it's a bottom line budget, and that's the only reason
And I'll also check with that too.
The other question I have is, how did you determine what roads were going to be paved?
Mainly through the Public Works Director, talking with him to see which ones needed it the most. Tim, can you come up front here, please?
What was the question again?
She wanted to know how we determined what roads needed to be done, and I said mainly talking to you because you were the ones that knew what roads needed it the most.
It wasn't easy, really, it wasn't. $50,000 when it comes to road reconstruction is not a lot of money. And it's with the bids, like I said, they're high numbers. And if they do have to use as much as they say they're going to use, then I'm not even going to be able to do the full length of fix it from top to bottom. One thing is if you speak to any road agent, public works director, they're going to tell you paving companies, keep your good roads good. Hicks Hill is a fairly new road. It was redone in '03, but it is starting to crack really bad. Peppercorn is another road. North Ashland Road is another road that is getting numerous cracks. The thought process is you overlay these roads now, even with 1 inch, and it's going to hold that road for even longer. If you're going to let it go, if you don't do these roads, then eventually it's going to look like a West Street, a Thompson Street, an Acre Street. So, like I said, it wasn't. I kind of went with. I had tonnage figures, price figures before I even had paving companies come in. I have road measurements of all the roads. I kind of tried to figure out what I could do with the money that I had. And Hicks Hill was the road that I came up with. Because one, it's a hill, and it gets a lot of usage as far as as far as our trucks go in the wintertime. I don't know what else I can.
What is the population on those roads so that those roads to spend the $50,000? And the other question that I don't know the answer to is, can that $50,000 be encumbered to the following year?
If you have a contract.
Or-
But oil prices go up.
I'm not
What we
saying
paid last year for paving is different than what we're paying this year.
No, I'm not saying they don't go up. Everything goes up. Oil, bread, watermelon. I mean, everything goes up, and that's understandable.
Yeah.
And that's why you got the sand you did now
Yeah.
instead of waiting. But could that money be encumbered so that you could accumulate more money, put out a warrant article, and start West Road or?
You could, but there again,
But you
you're
need a
letting that
contract.
road go another year.
Yes.
I mean, we crack seal roads to kind of help do that. I'm still gonna plan on doing that this year, plus overlay road. If I keep encumbering the money that's in my budget, then roads are gonna continue to fail, and then you're gonna get to the point where you can't overlay them. You're gonna have to grind them up and rebuild them. So we try to take that $50,000 and do as much as we can that year. If I don't go the whole length of Hicks Hill this year, or not able to, my thought process, okay, next year I'm gonna finish Hicks Hill, and then I'm gonna start Peppercorn, I'm gonna do North Ashland, where the money gets me. As far as the first part of your question, the population, I try not to let that come into play when I do a road.
You don't?
No, because everybody pays taxes. And to me, it doesn't matter how many people are on that road. You're on North Ashland Road, you pay taxes, people on Hicks Hill, they're on that hill, they pay taxes also. So I try not to, look at the population of the road, it's what needs to be done.
But it's looking at the whole picture. I mean, how many people live on Peppercorn Road that you would want to spend that amount of money to do that road instead of saving a
This is
portion of that
Hicksville.
road? I mean, of that money for next year. I mean, I'm just trying to look at the money wisely to.
Well, so am I, and like I said, if I'm gonna keep putting money away, then you're gonna keep letting these roads go.
Well, it's not
And
really-
as these roads go, it's not only the people that live on the roads, but it's as these roads deteriorate and get bumpy and break up, it's the wear and tear on the equipment that the town has.
How much money did you put away? I mean, you said that if you keep putting money away, how much money did you put away last year? I mean, you said you're.
Well,
You
I didn't
can't
put
unless
any
it's a
money last year in the
contract.
budget. We put $125,000 in a capital improvement for road reconstruction. This $50,000 is just in the budget. That's what's been in the last 2 or 3 years. Last year he picked certain sections of the road and repaved and overlaid, so
My last question is, how many people live on Peppercorn?
I couldn't tell you. But again,
And Peppercorn isn't being done. It's Hicks Hill.
Hicks Hill.
I'm going to tell you, Sandra, that when we redid Sanborn Road, and I'm not saying this is why it happened,
There aren't many that live there.
but the first 2 years we tried to get Sanborn Road redone. Anybody who traveled that road knows it was 10 times worse than Thompson Street. The first 2 years, it's a warrant article, it was labeled Sanborn Road, and that warrant article failed 2 years in a row. The third year, it was labeled road reconstruction, and it passed without a problem. I mean, I hear a lot of people say, well, I don't want to pay to fix that road because I don't live on it. I think everybody should get the same consideration when it comes to the road. To me, it just doesn't matter how many people live on the road, it's what road needs to be taken care of.
And I just personally believe and, I'll end that now, is that the worst roads should be looked at, and West Street is a terrible road.
It is, and $50,000 will not touch that road right now.
And that's why it needs to be resolved.
And that's why we're doing the $125,000 warrant article for reconstruction.
Any other comments and concerns? Is it for Tim?
Yeah, Tim, before you leave, and just a question, and that is, what is the town's liability vis-à-vis crumbling roads? And I asked that question because on Sunday, there was a crash on, you went out, put out cones, I guess, and helped put out cones. And on Thompson Street, which is deplorable, somebody went and painted orange over, pointing arrows, danger,
Yeah.
because there's huge holes and the cyclists, could have gone over those holes and killed themselves. So, I mean, the road is deplorable, you know that, and I know it's gonna be major reconstruction, it's not a simple paving job, but I just wanted to know, what is the town's liability should a cyclist go over that and
I
wipe
can't answer
out?
that. You would have to ask Paul or the selectmen or the town's insurance carrier. I mean, it's like anything else. You travel at your own risk, I would think. But I know the road is horrible, and it's not the only road.
No, I know, I live on another one of those
You know,
horrible
it's-
roads, believe me, so, I just curious, because that just frightened me when I saw those orange circles and warnings and hazards, and I thought of those poor cyclists driving over that road, and I've ridden over it myself, but, just curious.
As far as liability, I can't answer that.
Okay, thank you.
The sad thing is, it's not because the town doesn't want to do it, it's because the town doesn't have the money to do it.
Believe me, I understand.
And I understand what you're saying, because they are bad, and Thompson Street is really, really bad. Any other public comments and concerns? Dan?
wondering,
sure.
Tim does.
Tim? Tim, you might as well stay up front here.
Should I get it? I mean, tag is
The Hazardous Waste Day?
Yes, actually, I'm glad somebody mentioned that. September 29th, I've got the flyers, I've just got to get them down to the transfer station, we'll put it on the town website, or somebody will.
What day is it on?
I believe it's a Saturday, and that one will be in Plymouth. There is another one in Littleton. I'll have to check on the date, but most everybody around here wants to hit the one, September 29th.
Because Dan wanted to know, Dan.
And then, like I said, I'll get the flyers and we'll put it on our message board. Get that out.
Any other, Sandra?
Has the, any portion of the tangent been as of now?
Not yet.
Any other public comments or concerns? Okay, there being no other public comments or concerns, I'll make a motion to adjourn at 8:41 PM. Is there a second?
Would you like me to second this?
Yes. Would
I
you like
will.
to? Okay. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye?
Aye, motion carries. Paul, I wanted to quickly